call the meeting to order. So we can do roll call.
Sorry, this service is not cooperating with me.
No problem.
Okay. So I'm going to have to change that up. So for as far as roll call, Eileen Flynn. Here. Oh, no, I don't. Jim Zarsky.
Here.
Essie Snell.
Here.
Lisa Skumatz. Jonathan Koffler.
Here.
Mike Henshin. Caitlin Stafford. Perfect.
So, yeah, any suggestions to the agenda, or should we, I guess we can't officially move to approve it, but we can just, yeah, go for it. But anything else that's not on the agenda that people want to discuss?
Can we scroll through real quick? I did have one suggestion.
Okay.
But maybe it made it around there.
Do you know where the mouse is?
Oh, sorry.
No problem. Just realized I didn't have that.
My one. There it is.
No, that's Colin.
Oh, it's Colin.
Oh, okay.
Colin, you're on the right.
Thanks so much.
We're going.
Yep.
Sworn in.
Mike for the evening. Okay. So updates on different events, and then we've got a couple different items.
I think the only thing I wanted to bring up, I mentioned last week, was revisiting the amount of turf that we irrigate. Superior,
Yeah.
Whether we want to talk about planning to reduce that over time with either xeriscaping or.
And that's actually one of the things I've got an update on.
Excellent. Okay.
That was a retreat topic for us.
So should we put it on our agenda, or should we wait until we get the meeting?
So I would suggest that go under the topics for town board presentation, only because that could be something
Excellent.
that they talk about.
Works for me.
Sure.
So then we don't have to make any changes.
Okay.
Hey, Mike.
Hey.
We have one now.
Excellent. Any other suggestions or amendments to the agenda? Okay. Now I can officially make a motion to approve the agenda as is.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Yay. Any public comment? Doesn't look like it. All right, so we can move down to newsletter items. Was there anything in particular that was especially worth highlighting?
So if you just want to pull it up, it's there under the Google. And I just started it here because we did, the last part of the newsletter is just the different programs through Resource Central. And then if you scroll down, they did a recycling reminders section with all of the info from Boulder County.
Excellent. So the Resource Central workshop happened last week, I think. So I was able to go down and listen in. There were about 15 people or so in attendance. And I think the the workshop was well received. There's lots of questions, engagement. They had lots of cool resources for everyone. So it covered xeriscaping, making sure that you're creating environments that are well suited to pollinators, and then also just kind of general best practices too for planting.
Is there online information about, did they have links or something?
There wasn't a ton of online information that they referenced. They had a lot of physical documentation and notes.
There at the event?
Yeah. And I think there were some general resources too from the Boulder County Extension that talk about xeriscaping and pollinators and all that type of stuff too. So.
And it was 15 people, but so that wasn't as many as I think the previous year's work oversold or overbooked?
That's
or
my
was that the
understanding.
capacity?
15, you said 1.5?
1.5,
Okay.
yeah. So
So it wasn't filled
No, it wasn't full to capacity, unfortunately.
I was wondering if the time of year was also, I mean, I guess there's never an ideal time, but summer, weekday, I don't know, people are out of town.
It was also really
and whatnot.
stormy and kind of unpleasant out, so
Yeah.
I'm curious if that impacted things as well.
Yeah.
It also could have had something to do with just the way this year has been overall, because it's been such a wet year, people have had less reason to water, so I think maybe xeriscaping has been less top of their mind, but
That's
any
entirely
number of
possible too.
reasons. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also, I mean, to your point, it's also a little bit past when most people would go out and plant things, so that could be part of it too. So,
So you think it should be like a springtime thing next time?
yeah, I think that'd be great to move it up to, yeah, early in the year before people are starting to plant things. But,
Yeah, we should look into that if we do another one.
yeah, agreed. So the Partners in Energy application that's been submitted, I worked with Lisa on that. Lisa did a ton of great work on that and filled it all out. And I just provide some additional input. So I don't know off the top of my head when we hear back about that, but I know.
It seems
Yeah,
like
I'll
I
share
remember
this.
it was supposed to be a pretty quick turnaround, but.
That's what I think.
But
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
But anyway, that's all submitted, so look for more information on that. And then Chili Fest is coming up on the 7th of September in the afternoon. So I want to see if anyone's available and interested. I believe we usually have a booth, right, for that.
Yeah, we actually had a Chili Fest meeting today and
Okay.
talked over committees, and we weren't sure that you guys would want your own 10 by 10 tent. We figured that maybe you guys in ProSAC and OSAC could all share, because we didn't think that anyone had that big of a topic that they would need, access to the public and just their own tent. The CAPS committee with the master plan process going on, they will have their own tent, but if you guys are okay with sharing, we can definitely provide that space.
That's fine with me, unless,
That sounds reasonable.
is anyone free and interested in attending and helping staff the booth?
I could probably do like from 2 to 4.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great.
It's an extremely important sporting event going on in town that afternoon. It's CU versus Nebraska.
Nice.
It's a field, so I'm going to be there.
Nice.
I might be able to join.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'd love to be there.
Participate too.
All right, sounds good.
So,
So if Eileen does 2 to 4,
Okay.
Jonathan, would you be able to do 4 to 6?
Yeah.
Okay.
Excellent.
And I know
thanks.
that I saw in Caitlin's email that she was available for some time as well, so.
Oh, that's right, okay. Yeah, so that'd be great.
What time is this? Oh, it's 2 to 6.
Yeah. And then I'll be out of town, well, I'll be unavailable for this and then out of town for our next meeting.
are we going to hand out anything or?
I think we still have light bulbs to pass out.
So we do have some of our ACES stuff that we could pass out. I can make sure that that's there, but we decided at our meeting today that we are purchasing Chili Fest bandanas for all the committee members to
Nice.
hand out. So you'll have those as well.
What
Cool.
happened with all those paper leaf bags and stuff that they're handing out? Was that Arbor Day or something like that?
Yeah, I'm not sure if we actually ever got those. We had talked about them,
We had
but I
talked
don't
about
know.
it, but there was no order ever placed.
We never
Yeah.
bought them.
No.
No.
I mean, with fall around the corner, is there any desire or interest in getting some?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's walking around Chili Fest. I don't know if you want to carry any.
That's true.
I don't know. Just a thought.
Yeah, and I think it's a good topic to bring up. And I think you had mentioned as well, Karen, that there's some extra budget available too.
Yep, so I did, so all that I have submitted into the budget was the $46 for the decals and then the $1,700 for the Resource Central workshop that we just did.
Okay.
So that leaves $3,254. And then we will have to purchase a couple more decals that weren't printed correctly.
Okay.
So
Do you know
maybe we might
roughly-
not have to purchase those. I haven't got the
Fair
right
enough.
guy on the phone yet, so, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm guessing $30 is probably not enough to buy a whole bunch of bags, but maybe it is.
Oh, $3,254.
Oh, never mind. Okay. Just kidding.
Bags for everyone.
Yeah. It's a little bit different then.
Is that, so if we don't use that money, it doesn't carry over?
No, you're allocated $5,000 every year, each committee is.
Right. Okay.
But is it use it or lose it? Right, okay.
Okay. Well, maybe a future, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, we can't bank it. Well, it feels like I mean, having been to a couple of these, the uptake on giveaways seems to like be hit or miss.
Yeah.
But it's always feels like it's worth just trying out a different product. People do come by and they say hi, and if you've got something interesting, they'll take it. So
Yeah.
people didn't seem to take up the light bulbs as much as we thought they would.
No, that was surprising.
But feels like it's worth trying something else, but it's pretty cheap to buy those lawn bags. So.
Those are pretty cheap. I was thinking, or like those reusable snack bags, or they're reusable like Ziploc bags, but those are kind of expensive. I don't know how much it would be to buy something like that in bulk, but.
We could look at those. I do like the idea of doing like a leaf collection, like paper bag too, and we could even print the address for the green waste
I like that.
facility right on the bags, along with Town of Superior logos and whatever, so people know exactly where to go.
Just don't put a non-repulsable sticker on it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Well, so what I would suggest, the only thing is we do have a timeline here. We are 1 month out
Absolutely.
yesterday from the event. So anything that is going to be ordered would need to be ordered by the middle or end of next week.
Okay.
So if you guys want to go ahead and do some research and find what you want, all you have to do is send me exactly what you want with what verbiage you want on it, and then I can place the order.
Okay.
I just would want you guys to make the decision on what it is.
Sure.
So we have to find a place that will print on those bags then.
I would hate that to be a barrier, though. The more important thing is the bag itself.
Yeah.
If it's well received, we could always then,
Yeah.
in the future, get ones printed up.
Yeah,
Fancy.
exactly.
Yeah.
And there might be different companies that print with sustainable ink or, something like that you could look into and see what you could find.
Is anyone especially interested in looking into that on short notice?
Well, I sent
could-
you links 3 or 4 months
That's right.
ago when we were considering them for Arbor Day.
That's right. Yeah.
And I think they're all about the same price, whether it's Amazon, Home Depot, or Lowe's. I think it's like you get 5 bags for like $2 or $3. Like they're really cheap. Maybe should we just get like 100 bags for something like this to see how it goes?
Sure.
Could always be used at a later date.
I mean, the other thing we could do too is just have printouts that get stapled onto the bags or next to the bags or something too with the
It's not a
information.
bad
So
idea, is to staple something onto the bag.
yeah, they won't have to worry about customization and
Yeah.
be a lot easier.
You still have that, Karen, or would you like me to send you those links again?
Yeah, so is that something that would be purchased online or going to the store and
It was
purchasing
easier
it?
for you guys, because Home Depot and Lowe's, they carry them too, and I
Do
don't
they?
think there is a significant difference in price online
Okay.
versus.
There was no like bulk package.
I ain't look at that. I can see if there's a break point there on bulk.
Yeah, that email is not coming up for some reason. I have a couple others here.
Maybe
but I'm
Amazon has
not-
some in bulk.
Yeah, I can find that email in my sent box and maybe send it to you again.
Cool. If you wouldn't mind, that'd be great.
Yeah, that's fine.
But I think 100 bags sounds reasonable.
I think that's a good start.
I think so. Yeah.
So that's the handout we're gonna go with.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
What would the handout just be a little, something printed on paper?
Yeah, we could just do a small little
Yeah.
like postcard size thing. And I think, maybe include information on ACES, Town of Superior logo, and the information for the green waste facility. I don't know if there's anything else we want to include on that.
Looking for committee members?
Yeah,
This
that's true.
bag, you know.
Chris, you can do that when talking.
Yep.
And we do have the recruitment flyers that I have created already, so we'll have those there for all of the committees as well, so.
Excellent. I forgot to ask, Jim, are you taking notes or for this event?
Taking them right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I figured. I just want to confirm.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on Chili Fest? I think that sounds like a great
Oh,
plan.
I just had one more question. Karen, are there T-shirts that I feel like at one point in time you said that there were going to be T-shirts for
Yes.
those that we were supposed to wear for events like that.
Yeah, and so you're not required to wear them. We have volunteer T-shirts. They're green.
okay.
I'm sure you've seen the people walking
Oh,
around with
okay.
the green volunteer T-shirts. But we will also have Chili Fest T-shirts as well. that we can,
Cool.
you know, everyone, if you just stop at the information booth when you go to the event, let them know that you're with the ACES committee and you're going to go man the tent, and they'll give
Okay.
you either one, whichever one you want.
Okay.
The volunteer, the green t-shirt, or we're getting red, chili red shirts this year.
Nice.
Is there anything around like, I mean, most town of Superior events are zero waste, right? Is that kind of the way we try to?
Yeah, so we don't have a specific zero waste policy for the events. We utilize waste management. We have a contract with them, and for this year, we have already signed the contract with them for them to take our waste. We do the best that we can do with you know, silverware and plates and cups and those types of things. At Chili Fest, everyone gets it's $5 for a chili cup with a spoon that is reusable. So, and then we encourage all other vendors to utilize whatever zero waste products that they can, but it's not a requirement.
Okay.
Right. So moving on to the discussion items, the first one up is the topics for the town board presentation on August 26th.
So if you want, I could give a brief update of the topics, the ACES topics we've discussed at the board level. So as promised at our last regular board meeting, actually I guess it was during our work session of the regular board meeting, we met with the Rock Creek HOA, and as we discussed at this last meeting, our trash services are split up amongst multiple different entities within town, the Rock Creek HOA being the largest. They have briefly looked into enhancing compost accessibility, but it was costly. I mentioned that it was something that you guys were interested in, and it was a topic that you might be reaching out to them to discuss, and they were more than happy to discuss it. So they're open, and if you want to take this further, they're ready to talk. As far as the original topic that got you guys on the town board agenda for the 26th, it was going to be electric vehicle charging station infrastructure and trying to get that into the town code. And the rush on that was initially to try to get it in before everything was built out in downtown Superior. After talking to the town manager and doing a little research, everything has already been approved that if we made a change now, it wouldn't make a difference for downtown Superior. That doesn't mean a change to the code can't be made for future developments. So it's still something that I think is worth discussing, especially if it's continued interest for the committee. And a conversation I had with the town manager was during the review process of the applications, adding suggestions and prompts along the way to include EV infrastructure. So it can't be a hard rule over there, but it's something they're pushing. Over at the New Element Hotel, they do have a generic charging station. Initially, it was reported as a Tesla charging station. It's a generic one open for everybody. So that's the second topic. And then the third topic was the possibility of moving towards a more xeriscaped type town landscape plan, or moving to more resource-friendly landscape. This was something that you guys had discussed. I asked it to be brought up during our town retreat for the board to discuss it. I supported it, and I think there was tepid support from others on the board. There was one member who seemed opposed, but everybody else was waiting to hear more from you all to make it an actual firm recommendation that this is something you're interested in. there was concern that because they had seen a recommendation from you guys related to electric vehicle infrastructure, that that was clearly a top priority, and this wasn't really a priority, so why should this be a priority of the board? I think that is easily remedied if you guys would want to make a recommendation. That way that comes before the board and we see it and we know it is a priority. But there are at least a few members that said, because ACES hasn't told us this is a priority, this isn't something we want to consider right now.
Could we just make a recommendation?
Right? Yes, you could.
Is anyone opposed to just a general recommendation that we consider?
Well, what's the,
And
what are we
I think
recommending?
we might get
exactly?
better results with a specific recommendation.
Yeah.
If we could identify it, or I don't know.
And so you do have the opportunity at the 26th. I mean, you can make the recommendation here within this meeting, but it would be best to have someone at the meeting on the 26th because we do have time set aside for you guys. And so to make that recommendation in person to the town board
Okay.
would probably be, I mean, you can obviously talk about it and discuss it here, and then, you know, kind of firm up what you want to talk about or say during your presentation and then go from there.
Yeah. From a board perspective, I think the strongest voice that I could hear from you guys is in a written recommendation that you guys would approve tonight and then speaking to it further during the board meeting. So hitting both of those.
Do you think, from the board's perspective, there's more value in having sort of a generic goal about promoting xeric landscaping wherever possible so that it can be kind of up to the landscape maintenance group within the city to kind of make whatever decisions are best from their perspective? Or should we spend some time having a very specific recommendation?
No, so that was actually, I'm pulling up the agenda. So the way we discussed it and the way we had it framed for the retreat was consider adopting a long-term plan to transition the town to more natural/sustainable landscaping. And the way I presented it and phrased it is this would start in the low-hanging fruit, obvious areas, so you could hit kind of medians and that sort of thing where you're not having large impact on, say, neighbors. And then you could continue to kind of broaden that over a 3, 4, 5, maybe longer year period, so that's a phased approach. If you were to say something like that, I think the board, that'd be plenty for the board.
Okay.
And just one other update that I can give you as well is Patrick Hammer, who is our director. He recently met with James Hartzig from Dura-Root Environmental Consulting. They came and did a presentation in his office this past week and kind of talked about this exact topic and how they handle it, how they do it. And Patrick was extremely excited about it and thought that he brought me into his office because he thought it might be something that you guys might want to hear the exact same presentation, so that then if you wanted to actually go to the town board with a company who could provide these services to the town, then you have that more backing and research when you're making your recommendation. So it kind of already sets it up. Patrick has sent me their information here. And just so you know too, Patrick has resigned, so he is moving on. So that's why he wanted me to make sure he got this presentation before he does leave, and wanted to make sure it got to you guys. So I can always send you some of that information, and then you can make a decision, or we can make a decision tonight that you want me to give them a call, set up for them to come in and present what they do, because this exact thing is what they do. And if Patrick was going to stay here, it would be something that he would pursue.
Okay.
But because he's not, he thought maybe the committee would be interested in pursuing that.
Sure. I mean, at least speaking for myself, I'd be really interested in a presentation. I think since the board presentation is on the 26th, probably we're not, there's no way we can make that happen before then.
Right.
But it'd be great to get that information, I think.
Okay.
Generally,
I can
at some
see
point.
if they have something electronically that they could send out, so that you guys could at least, look through that information in the meantime, and then we can set up a time for them to come and be in person as well.
The other thing too, which I forgot to mention for the Resource Central workshop, was that the woman who presented it works with the Boulder County Extension Office, sorry, long day, And one of the things that she mentions is that they're able to come out and do landscape audits to help provide specific examples of how to make landscaping more sustainable, xeric, use better use of water, those types of things. So they typically charge about $75 an hour, but if there are opportunities going forward for us to use those types of services, that might be something to consider as well. Especially if we have targeted areas where we want to get some specific recommendations first.
Right.
So we can have, kind of, again, that phased approach. So it sounds like probably one approach that might be helpful is to go ahead and adopt a resolution tonight showing general support for xeric landscaping, if that makes sense to everyone. And then we can talk with the board more going forward about specific recommendations and how to actually phase that in over time. But just a general show of support.
Yeah, I guess my thought there was it doesn't actually even have to be xeric. It could just be
Sustainable in general.
just nothing that involves water. You know, like a good example is like what we've done to the medians down Rock Creek Parkway, where we changed them out from grass to some really nice stonework and stuff like that. That you know, obviously needs no water or rock work or things like that. So I think I don't think it has to be only one option, but it could be multiple. And I guess one thought I had was maybe in terms of our transition phasing plan, we could, you know, I think someone presented that we had like 650 acres, 645 acres that we maintained. And I don't know if all of that is turf, or a mixture of that is turf and open space.
I think it's a mix.
I
I
think
remember correctly.
But I also know we even water our open space too.
Right.
And that's something, I'm wondering, we need to split those topics into two. It's like, how do we want to, you know, deal with watering just grasses in our backyards versus the turf? But I think the thought I had was the turf side, and maybe we could make a recommendation to eliminate 1% turf every year. And obviously start with the low-hanging fruit and see where it goes. I mean, I think there's a lot, I think we can all agree there's a lot of shaded areas that are tough to keep green already. The kids don't touch, no one touch, but we're paying to water them and maintain them. Let's start, you know, with those areas first. Defer, you know, put that back on our hired landscape company to come back with what areas that they need to get changed out. I don't know. But of course, the savings are two ways, right? There's water, but then there's the maintenance savings too.
Absolutely.
And so there's definitely an ROI for the town on this, in my opinion.
And I think that's the piece that, whether it's through Vargas that we actually get some solid numbers, or when we get the presentation, actually from the experts that can talk to long-term savings. I think the person on the board who was more concerned or not supportive of this was mostly looking at it from a financial perspective, and that there's upfront cost to transitioning all of this landscape, and how much will it really save us in the long run. So from a monetary resource perspective, he wasn't sold that it made sense. But if we can start to build that argument, whether it's through this next presentation that can provide information, I think that's a good piece that would help win over kind of the side of the board that wasn't bought in.
Well, and I don't know if any of you guys had the opportunity to watch the board retreat, but I would encourage you to go and watch it. They did, you know, talk extensively about this and brought up ACEs, and so I think it would be beneficial for each of you to go and watch that if you have a chance. I think that the other part of this that I think was interesting is the safety aspect. So they talked a lot about, you know, starting with the medians because of that safety aspect of those workers that are trying to mow those medians and things. So if there was any sort of research or, you know, information that we could share that you guys could gather and put together that would support, you know, reducing, you know, safety concerns. For those workers, that would be another aspect that could be make this go farther.
Sure. Okay.
Well, I feel good generally about voicing support from the committee for this type of thing. If that's where we are right now, then it feels great. If we don't have a grounds for a very specific recommendation right now, but if if we want to say something general, I'd be in support.
Something general good enough for the board at this point.
Yeah.
Sounds
Yeah,
like they
I don't, like, what's their
need
reaction if we go present to them in a couple weeks and just say, we support this concept?
Yeah.
Is that enough for them to act on, I guess? Yeah.
more.
Because then it
Hey.
isn't going to sound like a priority if we don't really have
Yeah.
specifics and numbers and facts.
Well, I think that's the value of the presentation that you guys, the presentation time you have, saying, you know, and if this is wrong, but if I were in your guys' shoes, saying, you know, this is something that we're interested in, we do want to pursue it. We don't have the specifics yet. We're doing more legwork. We are hoping to schedule a presentation from our next meeting. We're pulling together more research. So right now we have a kind of generic recommendation to you of where our general direction's going, but over the next few months, we hope to firm up more specific guidance that we can pass forward to the board or something like that. And
Sure.
if that matches your thoughts.
I think that sounds like a good approach.
I agree.
All right. Should we go ahead, we could make a motion to just officially recommend basically what you had put together, if that sounds good.
Yeah, so I can read to you guys exactly what was out of the board agenda. So it would be a recommendation in support of a gradual transition to natural and sustainable landscaping in targeted areas of the town. That's what we had in there. You guys can adjust as.
I think that fits it pretty closely.
Did you catch that? Just
No, I didn't catch that at all.
Sure.
I want to process it. All right, now I'm typing.
I can also just email this to you right now.
Yeah,
Make it
and then
easy
you
if
can just
want.
put it in your
That's
notes.
his
That would-
computer.
Yeah, you can
I can hit the whole ACES committee if you guys want, if you all want this language that way.
work,
All right, sure.
and then it'll.
Or I can read it, your call, whatever's easiest.
Maybe we should just read it,
Okay.
actually, when they're ready.
I don't know why my. Emails.
I was going to the doc, I'll just type that.
Yeah, I just can't get the.
I guess while you're looking at that, I also do like the recommendation for gradually reducing amount of turf, but my one concern with that is because there's going to be so much new development in landscaping, how that might play into having an absolute goal about reduction of turf if we're putting more in at the same time.
Well, that's probably another topic as well.
Yeah.
But I assume that's along the lines is the EV recommendation that ship has sailed on limiting turf on new developments.
I mean, there's actually a requirement in town that I believe 35% of the land within developments has to be either natural or maintained
Okay.
turf. I don't remember the exact words, but I know 35% is the right amount.
35% has to be turf.
I don't know if turf, but it has to be land. Do you remember?
I don't.
Landscape isn't the right word. I think turf isn't the right word, but I think it's either
Something green?
natural or maintained
Okay.
grass, for lack. Yeah, it's in that general ballpark.
Okay.
Wasn't connected to the Wi-Fi, that's why. Let's just take a second.
Is that the topic we want to talk about? Whether that 35% should be lower?
Yeah, or non-existent. That feels like a good thing for us to investigate. I don't know if we can
Yeah.
pull together anything in the next couple of weeks, but
Yeah.
I think that'd be great for a future meeting too, to discuss along with, more specificity in general.
Yeah.
But, yeah, if we could have like, 30%, 35% landscaped, but only a maximum proportion of that be turf or something like that, that might be a worthwhile recommendation.
I don't see an email from you yet.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sending it right now. I thought we were reading it. My bad.
Is that number, I mean, any idea how long that number's been around for, that 35%?
Since before I started paying attention to town stuff, so 6 or 7 years, beyond.
Decades.
I'd imagine so.
Yeah. I expect that's pretty standard language too.
Yeah.
In most areas, just to make sure that there's some, not building space in development areas. But, if we could have like a maximum percentage of turf allowed or something like that, or in a direct encouragement to put in xeric stuff instead of turf, that'd be great.
All right, so I should have just gone through. And I added the ACES part in the beginning.
Here it is.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, we got it here. Copy that in.
And the one piece missing here that we talked about, but it didn't make it into this language. So it says ACES recommend, or what I just sent, recommends the town consider a gradual transition to natural and sustainable. We talked about that piece, but it's not in this language. So if you want to add and sustainable landscaping in target areas of town, you can make that addition if you
I
want.
think that'd be great.
Okay, natural, sustainable.
Should we call out low water explicitly? Or is sustainable sufficient?
I mean, I think either low or no water.
We could say something like natural, sustainable, and low water. Do all the things.
Natural, low, and no water. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Do you want to read that out and then we'll pass the motion? Just
Okay, so from Ken, ACES recommends that the town consider a gradual transition to natural and sustainable, i.e. natural low or no water landscaping in targeted areas of the town.
Mhm.
That-
I think that sounds good. Does anyone else have any other suggestions?
And that'll be complemented with explaining to them that there's plans to,
Add specificity later
Yeah.
on? Yeah.
I mean, the way I read this is that you could argue that we're already there with the fact that we have a lot of open space with natural vegetation on it.
That's
So
true.
I feel like we should be more specific that this applies to areas that are regularly watered turf.
Mm-hmm.
water and maintain.
Maybe we could start off saying like particularly for areas that are currently maintained turf.
Or median
we s-
areas, I mean,
So should we maybe add on a
Easiest.
sentence that says areas to be considered are?
Yeah, I think that'd be great. Maintain turf.
Are all maintained turf?
Yeah,
Okay, what else?
and maybe medians. So we talked about those.
Including medians.
And watered open space areas or service.
Reducing the water, reducing open space areas are currently, and reducing the amount of irrigation being used to, I'm trying to figure out on the open space side, what language we should use there.
And reducing the amount of irrigation required for open space.
And reducing Like I know, like I have an evergreen tree right behind my fence, which is in an
Mhm.
open space that, now that gets water and like that makes sense, but then I hear the big sprinklers turn on in the middle of the night.
Right.
They're shooting all over the open space, so.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to read it one more time and then
Okay,
we'll?
so from the beginning, I have ACES recommends the town consider a gradual transition to natural and sustainable, i.e. natural, low or no water landscaping in targeted areas of the town. Areas to be considered are all maintained turf, including medians, and reducing the amount of irrigation used for open space.
Uh,
Want to read it again?
Does
Yeah, I was just saying maybe we should say like,
Maybe it's the open space and what else?
well, we can say like priority areas, priority targeted areas include, so we're not limiting it to just what we're saying.
Right.
But saying that those are the priority areas.
That way, if we left anything out, it doesn't mean that.
Yeah, so I wouldn't want us to accidentally leave something out and then have that be ignored.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, aren't there a lot of, I feel like, I don't know what you would call these areas, but like there's areas where there's signage and they're kind of constantly replanting flowers in those areas.
That's
Do you
true.
know do you know what I'm talking about? Like some of those
Where the
areas?
monuments
Yeah.
are. Like the big Rock Creek
Like
monument.
there's the one right by the North Pool, I feel like they're,
I think those are also largely the HOA areas, so I don't know.
I think the town maintains all of that.
Do they? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
it just seems silly to not just put something in that should just stay there, stay just
perennial,
with
yeah.
it year round.
Yeah, so like annual flower beds, I guess.
Yeah, so I
Get that
think,
in.
right, I think there are some areas of annual flower beds.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the term I was looking for.
I mean, do we want to just keep it general like that for now? I mean, I know we
I
talked
think
about
that's-
throwing the percentage on there at some point, but maybe we need to do more research on that before we.
I think that'd be good to keep it general for now, so that the board knows that it's an area of interest for us, that's priority. And then we'll continue to do research and hopefully come up with some more specific recommendations beyond the general goal.
I mean, should we throw a sentence on there about why we're doing this? Like, we believe this will contribute to reduced water costs for the town.
We don't typically-
Maintenance.
Increased worker
And
safety.
increase worker safety on the meetings. I mean,
We don't see that in all the recommendations, so I'd say that's an optional piece. You could certainly address that verbally during the presentation, but if you want to include that, there's nothing wrong with including it.
okay.
I would probably lean towards just keeping it simple for now, and then we can
Okay.
provide additional background in the presentation.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So we just need to vote, is that it, on this? on
Yeah,
this exact
so,
statement, or-
yeah, I'll introduce a motion to pass, or to recommend, so the board, as written, I guess. Yeah. As ineloquent as I can be. Yeah,
Does it need a second?
yeah, I think we need someone to second it.
Seconded.
All right, all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Yes. All right, motion passes.
So you want us to send this sentence back to you?
It'll just be in the minutes.
It'll be in the notes.
I folded it.
Yep.
If you want to say something about like, motion passed unanimously.
Okay, all right, yeah.
And then the last thing that I think you guys have discussed, I think it was maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5 meetings ago, you guys had someone from town staff come in and talk about the weed and pest management plan and the use of glyphosate, Roundup. That was something that I continued to look into after we had discussed it, and evidently Trustee Lasis was also doing research, so him and I kind of simultaneously brought that up for discussion during the retreat, and the board unanimously agreed to stop using it throughout the town going forward. So
Awesome.
we won't be using Roundup at all going
Cool.
forward. There will still be chemicals that are used within the grass areas, but it's not the chemicals that have found to be carcinogens.
Awesome. Thanks so much. It's fantastic. So in terms
Before
of,
we,
sorry.
just going back to the electric vehicle thing, so,
Yeah.
and apologies that I wasn't here the last 2 meetings, so maybe I missed the context. I understood that the EV code specific opportunity is passed for the town center, but also that the goal that we've talked about in the past is still that the opportunity is more ripe to build. You know, we still would like to see that infrastructure installed there, and the opportunity is better to build it now rather than to wait until the whole thing is fully developed. And then we variously talked about, we understood that we needed to understand a range of cost estimates for different configurations. That's when we first talked about paying a consultant to figure that out for us. And then at one point, we said we might wait for Excel's help under the Partners in Energy program. Do we have a clear resolution about what our path forward is on getting EV charging infrastructure in there?
Yeah, so currently we're taking sort of a multi-pronged approach where we made the recommendation that we adjust our municipal code to basically require EV charging in new construction, which obviously won't apply to the town center. But for example, if there's additional construction around like Costco in that area, which is something that's been proposed, it would apply to that. We did make a budget recommendation to ask for more money to fund a consultant to help us with that. And so that'd probably be more on town managed properties where we could put in additional EV chargers.
Could be on what, sorry?
Town managed properties, I believe, for what the consultant would look at, if I'm remembering that correctly.
You don't think that that we could do a cost estimate for that property, even if it's not town managed, and that the town could like propose to cost share with the developer? Or,
We could potentially, yeah.
I mean, I think that's the prime location because it's going to be a commercial
Absolutely.
hub, and so it's worth at least having the cost estimate for that and seeing if there's any public, private, cost sharing or any other business model opportunities to get that installed there that the town could support instead of just sort of hoping that the developer builds it.
Yeah.
I wonder if even we could use our funds to support something like either pay for a consultant to come in relatively soon as needed, or even to have some kind of like a matching thing where, hey, we're going to contribute a little bit to an EV station.
Another solution also, because I assume primarily you guys are concerned about the commercial core going in. What we can do is, prior to the applications coming to the board for final approval, it will generally go to the committees that would have any type of need or desire to see those applications. Typically, those haven't gone to ACES, but I could certainly reach out to the town manager and have him make sure you guys see that application, and you guys can make a recommendation to the town board related to that application. So you could make a recommendation that the town board, I'll use sloppy language, recommend that the developer add electric vehicle charging stations within this downtown commercial core or something like that when you review this application. So it's a less formal way to go about it. You're not proposing any cost sharing or anything like that, but it brings before the board, and then it also brings it bubbling up in front of a actual quasi judicial hearing for discussion and consideration by the developer. There's been other committees that have had some success with that, some haven't.
It makes a lot of sense
Yeah,
to me.
I'd be interested in seeing applications. I think that'd be a good use of our committee's time, if other people agree.
So if I'm hearing things correctly, you're saying even though we can't write a resolution in to add EV charging because the plan, everything's been through plan check and all that stuff is approved, we can still independently recommend that the town fund installing the infrastructure?
Well, I think I'm hearing two things. One is, in this case, it would be that the town, just when they get the detailed plan, that the town makes the recommendation or the request of the developer to add EV charging, but that the town's not in a position to require it at that point. The other, what I said, and I'm curious what the reaction was, what I said was that there could be other ways of bringing funding into it, whether from the town, from the state, wherever, and actually just directly funding it and not relying on the developer to self-fund that installation.
There's probably a lot of state funds for that.
Well, there definitely are some.
If we
Yeah.
provided some of the resources to the developer, looked at the application, see, oh, there's no EV charging stations, and then we find out the resources and say, hey, we recommend you put this here, and here's some resources for you to get the funding to do that, or get some matching funding, or whatever it is.
For reviewing the applications, so we can do more of that type of analysis recommendations to say, like, we recommend putting in additional infrastructure, and here's some resources that you can directly leverage for that.
And no grass.
Right. Turn your turf into EV charging.
Yeah. I mean, did you have a reaction to that, to whether the town would
I've never,
offer any funding for that?
that's a very unique approach that I haven't seen before. So I don't know whether it would be successful or not successful. Generally, when these things come forward, there isn't a partnership between the town and the developer. It's just the developer shouldering the costs. I have no idea whether what you're proposing could happen. I don't know. As far as I know, it could. We've just never,
Yeah.
I think, approached it that way.
I think the things we still need to understand are how much would it cost for different configurations? Because we could install an exciting, modern, top-of-the-line thing, which could be extremely expensive. And we don't have a way of independently determining those cost estimates. So that's why we had talked about the consultant. And then the other one is that there could be great opportunities with Excel because they have a lot of pressure now from the state to encourage more electric vehicle charging. So they may be, I don't think they have any existing programs to sign up for, but if we get into a partnership with them, that they may be able to offer something new, which doesn't require the town to fund anything. So I think we should continue to look for creative opportunities to get that in there, even if we can't force them to do it. And I think we should both do the consultant cost estimate and look for, new ideas that Excel might bring to the
Absolutely.
table.
Yeah, and that's the approach that I've been envisioning too, is, hopefully try to change the municipal code so for future construction, not necessarily downtown, that still applies. Then we'll also look for funds to do get a consultant in to do cost estimates and get some strategic suggestions. And then also, hopefully with the Partners Energy Program, work with Excel to get additional thoughts and suggestions or recommendations on that. So, if that sounds okay.
I think we were, with the Partners in Energy program, we were just worried about the time frame of that, but now
Yeah.
it seems like maybe that's okay if it takes a little while anyway for them to get back to us about that, but.
Well, I do know that the Partners in Energy Program has a lot of resources available to members, and so maybe that, fairly quickly, if we're accepted into the program, we can start to leverage those and make some specific recommendations to the town based on those, and then continue to hone those and get more additional recommendations going forward based on that.
Okay.
What is the timeline on all the applications, and how easy is it to look through those and see if there's an EV station anywhere in their plans?
So
I mean, would that take too much more time than the members have to look?
all of this is available on the town's website right now. If you go to the website and scroll over the departments tab, and there's a ton of options, but if you scroll all the way down to the bottom in the left column, we'll look at it right now.
Oops. Wrong one. Sorry, what's our website?
Town of Superior, superiorcolorado.gov.
Oh, there
It
it
should
is.
just
Cool.
populate.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right, so
Okay, so-
hover over departments and then scroll to the bottom on the left, bottom left, development projects. These are that under review column, right, or section. Those are all of the projects that are currently under review. So that first one is blocks 14 and 15, and at the bottom of that paragraph, you'll see that that's coming before the board August 12th, so this Monday. So that's going to be Thrive that's presenting that one. If you scroll lower, that next one is Toll Brothers. That's a gigantic piece of housing that is the furthest south and east of the project. It's the area that will eventually be adjacent to Rock Creek. Down below further, that's the commercial core. At the end of that paragraph says Morgan Ranch, downtown Superior, Main Street. That's the one that you guys are interested in talking about. So all of those links right there. I haven't looked at these, and as a trustee, I'm not supposed to look at these because I need to stay partial and can only look at this stuff in a quasi-judicial hearing. So I haven't looked through it, but if you were to click through those links, you may be able to find out if there's any electric vehicle charging stations there.
Okay.
Alternatively, you could also probably email town staff, Stephen Williams, and ask, is there any charging stations in any of these projects? And he probably knows off the top of his head since he lives this stuff day to day.
Cool. Okay. Is anyone in particular interested in following up on some of these different applications and looking for EVs?
And sorry, timing of this, the only one that actually has a date on there is that top one, but I know that the two following that, the Toll Brothers and the Downtown Superior, those are both envisioned to come before the board for approval this year.
Okay.
I don't think the ones below that are planned to come
Who
before
was
the
it
board.
that's familiar with them and would know whether?
Stephen Williams?
Stephen Williams.
Might be more expedient just to talk to him.
Yeah.
I think if someone on the committee wants to reach out to him and get some additional information, then it was something we can discuss at a future RACES meeting. So, would anyone be interested in doing that, or?
Mike, maybe? I would do it.
Peer pressure.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to.
And Mike will look into it.
Who should I email?
Steve Williams.
What's his email address?
So Steve, I believe it's Stephen W. But I can't tell you.
Probably send the email right now. You're done.
Well, thank you for doing that.
Wow, super slow.
Okay, so I can go ahead and help present on the 26th, but is anyone else interested in supporting or helping out with that?
We may need to close that during CAPS's meeting.
Okay,
What time is it on the 26th?
thanks. I think it's usually around 6-ish or so. 6, 7.
Yeah, so that agenda hasn't come out. I don't know if you have any more information.
My understanding is that you guys will be in the presentations section, so
Okay.
not part of the work session.
Maybe
Okay.
after 7.
Yeah.
Okay,
Roughly 7:30 is the best guess, but if you show
Okay.
up 7:15, you'll still make it.
So 7 to what should I plan on?
I mean, the meeting will start at 7. We go through the board reports, which usually lasts about 15 minutes. Then it goes into public comment, which we've generally been having 15 to 30 minutes of public comment recently. And then after that, we'll go into presentations. So best guess, you're probably looking around 7:30 for a presentation time.
And CAPS will also be giving a presentation that evening, so, and I don't know how, I can, once the agenda is released, I don't know if you all are on the email notification system, but the e-blast system, if you are, you'll get it. If not, I can forward it to everyone so that you can see the timing of the agenda.
sure, that'd be great, thanks. And I'm adding to my calendar right now.
So what are we presenting on besides the, just in summary, so presenting on the landscaping?
The
presenting on
code
the-
change?
Yeah.
Wasn't it originally the municipal code change? Wasn't that what we were trying to?
That's what I'd like to focus on, and I was thinking that probably rather than having like a PowerPoint presentation, I would just have the proposed code up, and then we can kind of have more of a discussion with the board, unless people suggest otherwise. And then, given our conversation, I think bringing up the issue of landscaping and moving more towards sustainable landscaping, that we'll be working to develop more specific proposals and recommendations going forward. And there's one other topic that I'm blanking on that we discussed. Do you have, or am I crazy?
The composting?
Yeah, I don't know.
The reuse, but
I mean, I also just envision it too. I mean, I think the main thing is the EV municipal code adjustment, and then I also see it as just a time to make myself available, or ourselves available to the town board too, to answer questions or, you know, get additional guidance from them if they have specific thoughts or questions for us that we can help focus on. If that sounds like a reasonable approach,
yeah, and I'd say plan for 5 to 15 minutes roughly.
sure. Okay. Anything else on that topic?
So 5 to 15 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes? time, 10 to 15 minutes?
I mean, anywhere between 5 and 15 minutes, and then you may get a ton of board questions after that, might not, but if you talk for kind of that 5 to 10 and leave room for 5 minutes of questions, that's generally a good benchmark.
Okay.
So the 3 topics I have are sustainable landscaping transition, EV municipal code adjustment.
Mhm.
And, well, it's not really a topic, but I asked the board if they have any things they want us to look into.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds good.
And Karen, can you make sure that so you were talking about putting the Boulder municipal code, or the document that you'd created up?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So can we make sure that that gets into the board packet? Yeah. That way everyone can read it ahead of time and you don't have to spend too much time actually walking people through the specifics.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
So the one that you sent me would be the only, you haven't made any changes to it or anything?
Nope,
Okay,
that's
so
it.
I'll just use that one.
Cool, thanks. All right, so we can move on to our second discussion topic. Green business updates. I know that the decals were all printed out and Caitlin ran around and distributed some of those. It sounds like there's still a couple more to be printed. Are there any other updates that we should cover beyond those?
I know Caitlin sent the email. I don't know if everyone received that. She delivered the thing. Nope, I think that's all I have.
Okay.
Oh, the handout. Did you guys receive her email?
I saw that there was an email. I haven't had a chance to
So
look at
she
it, though.
attached a draft of a handout that they could print, the committee could print, or the town would print for the committee members to use as outreach for 2019 Green Business Program. I did not put it on the shared drive, but it was just if everyone just kind of wants to look at it and if there are any changes, you can go ahead and send those to me. I can add the town logo and print them on cardstock. If that's something that you're interested in. If we don't want, I mean, that's completely up to you guys. I think Caitlin just threw it out as a suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen the pamphlet, but in general, I'd be supportive of us, telling people about our program. So I think maybe the thing to do is for everyone, especially in the interest of time, to look over that via email. And if we have additional comments, we can share that through the group chat. But I think in principle, that sounds like a good thing to do.
Yep, just let me know if there are any changes and then I can make sure to have copies for Chili Fest.
Okay, excellent, thanks. All right, so moving on to another item which came up previously, I think at our last meeting, which was encouraging the use of compostable utensils at town events. And Jim, I know this is something you just brought up recently, but yeah, I'm not sure, like we could provide an official recommendation that the town should strive towards zero waste and mandate compostable utensils. Do you think that would be something that's feasible, Karen and Ken?
So we had actually discussed the fact that Jim had said that the back of it said that it wasn't compostable or something, and all the utensils that we have that we've purchased are all compostable.
Okay.
We didn't see that when we looked at it, so I don't know if maybe it was a utensil from I'm not really sure how that got into it, because we did check into that, because that is one thing that we know we can do. So we do our best to make sure that all the utensils, paper plates, cups, that types of things that we are providing for our events are compostable and zero waste.
Okay. Is there more that we could recommend as a committee in terms of encouraging other vendors or participants in the town events to also use compostable materials and things?
Yep, and like I said before, we already do that.
Okay.
That goes out in all the materials to any vendor that applies. We make sure we ask them to do that. It's not something that we can enforce, but we do definitely ask them all to do that. When we were speaking about this today, what they said is if ACES is really interested in pursuing this further, it would be great to have you guys be kind of like the volunteer gurus and like come and help at the events and
Okay.
kind of do that kind of stuff. So if you guys have the time to put in to be those people, and we can reach out to the, I believe, I'm not sure exactly, I can't remember what group it was, but there was a group that would come in and help doing the sorting and all of that stuff. But if we have committee members who are willing to be there and start that process, then that's something obviously that we would be more than happy to work with you guys on.
Okay.
Is there anything stopping us from making it a requirement instead of a suggestion?
I don't know. I would have to ask that question. I mean, I've been told that we can't make it a requirement for money, and we just don't have the staffing. I mean, we have 12 people in our department, and so we do not have the staffing to require that to happen at a town event. If we have more volunteers, if we have the committee that's interested in making that happen and doing the legwork part of it, absolutely. But we just don't have the ability, the staffing, the financial resources, that type of thing, to make that happen at all of our events. It's a huge undertaking.
Yeah. Okay.
It's easier said than done. If you do a little research on it and kind of look into it, Town of Lafayette, or City of Lafayette, I worked there for 9.5 years before I came here, and they, within the last 10, 12 years have really done an amazing job. But they have an entire group that just goes to all the events, and they're responsible. They stand at the garbage cans and they separate all of the waste that's coming in. They take it to the location. I mean, it's a huge process.
That's like staff or volunteers?
It's all volunteers.
Wow.
But you're talking about the sorting, the bagging, and that side of it.
Mm-hmm.
But what about?
That's what makes it zero waste. I mean, you can't just have the products there. You have to separate everything and make sure that it goes, within the right bin and to the right place.
And then you gotta assume people are gonna mistakenly put things in the wrong bins, so that's why you have to go through all the.
And they have a whole committee that
People
stays
watching.
after the event to sort.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds tough.
I guess maybe the angle I was coming from was just, yeah, there's that side of it, but it was the vendors have to use,
Camping on the wall.
recyclable,
Yeah.
compostable.
And like I said, we can make recommendations, we can ask them to do that, but as soon as you start making requirements like that, then people don't want to come to your events, and we don't have vendors.
And I expect it's hard to enforce too, even if we want to.
Mhm.
So. All right. Any additional thoughts on that? Sounds like there's not a whole lot of obvious additional things we can do at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I
Revisit
kind of
this.
feel like we're doing what we can do, and
Mhm.
every time we sit down and we have a new events, Dina Miller is our new event specialist, and she's, real interested in continuing to talk about this. We're not going to stop. We're going to do what we can do and kind of see, how we can make small, steps forward in this process. So, I mean, we're definitely not saying, no, we can't. We're going to do what
Totally.
we can, because we obviously, we want that too.
Mm-hmm.
But it sounds like, from what you're saying, that, I mean, we would need some people that are really dedicated to come to each event. I don't know if there's some way that if there's a group of high schoolers we could
Recruit
form,
some
I don't know,
volunteers.
Yeah.
recruit some people for something like that might be interested
Mhm.
in that.
Superior Leadership
Yeah,
Council.
something. Do they want to take on
Sort of
something
waste.
else? What do they
Talk
do? I don't know, I think there could be an opportunity there, though, to find somebody that's interested in it, but
Mhm. So maybe that's worth talking about at a future meeting, is whether we could recruit enough volunteers to actually make that viable.
we need to get some more people on our committee first.
Right, exactly. All right, so we had in our original work plan the exploring a fall leaf collection program. In the past, we've run into a lot of challenges with this just due to costs. But since it's in our work plan, I just wanted to bring it up again and see if anyone had any additional thoughts for ways that we might be able to finally do this. In the past, we've also talked about potentially, looking at opportunities for volunteers to run around, like some Boy Scout groups or some other avenue to help with that. But, we also do have the green waste facility, and so there might be a way if we just hand out bags and provide more education that we could get largely a similar result without having to expend the resources and money needed to do an official collection.
So remind me of the big picture goal here.
The idea was just to, oftentimes people rake up their leaves and just toss them in the trash. And so diverting that into the green waste facility as opposed to just having them be thrown out. So, it's certainly convenient if there's an official collection where there's a truck that comes around and picks up everyone's leaves and then goes and takes it down to the green waste facility. But that's also really expensive to do a one-off pickup like that. And it's unclear to, how much uptake of that there will really be. A lot of people, even if they're interested in participating, will forget to put out their leaves or haven't raked them up at a certain date or things like that. So,
So if we did like a publicized, town is gonna drive a truck around on these dates, put your bags of leaves on the curb, the town will pick them up.
mhm. That was sort of the original idea.
That's kind of thought there.
Yeah, and largely in the past, it's just been a challenge with funding that because it's expensive.
So it hasn't been done.
No, it's something we've talked a lot about over the years, but we've
Yeah,
never
there's
figured out a way to
money, right?
do it.
There's extra money that won't get spent. I don't know how expensive is it?
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head, so.
Is that something we'd have to work with our solid waste collection provider already, or would we have to
who
use
does
town
that?
resources to use that?
I'm not entirely sure.
something.
I know there's also a challenge because we have different waste facilities, both in the Rock Creek HOA and then with the rest of the town. So it's also coordinating with both of those, unless we just want to have one and not the other.
I thought we talked about that, I don't remember if there was a specific town that we talked about, but that they had their own trucks specifically for, the town owned the vehicles for like leaf and collection and whatnot. So.
That sounds vaguely familiar. Yeah, I don't know, Karen or Ken, do you have any recommendations on like additional town resources, or if there's a way to get additional information about potential costs for doing something like this?
So I don't, I was just going to do a little search.
Fair enough.
Tough things, you don't know how many people are gonna participate.
Right.
Yeah, that's also one of the big challenges too, is it's hard to predict how many people are going to participate. It's expensive to get a truck, and then,
If you did it every year,
It's
it would
great. It's
probably
great
get
if
higher.
it, I mean,
yeah.
if it's in place. I mean, when I lived in New Jersey, our town, I think, came by maybe twice in the fall, and they had it was the truck with like the vacuum. It would you just put them on the street. I think we talked about this too, that
That's
here,
right.
it probably wouldn't work with how windy it is, but
Mhm.
you would just suck them right up off the street.
That would be awesome.
It's wonderful.
I mean, my guess is that it probably wouldn't be town resources that would do it, just because we have such limited staff anyway. So it'd probably be something we would contract out. So in all likelihood, it'd probably go through our waste collection contract. And I'm assuming there'd be some type of option there for it. So I think it would just come down to trying to find, does that option exist? And if it does, what's the cost associated with it? If that option doesn't exist, is there anybody else who offers that service? And then what would that cost be?
But I
Yeah, I
could
think-
see the argument would be, well, why do we need to pick them up when we have the facility? People just need to get it over, get the leaves
Right,
over
and
there.
so that was what I was gonna say, like, I liked Essie's comment about education. And I know that with this group, you guys have talked a lot about, getting more education and more information out there on the yard waste site, how to use it, when to use it, and so that would be a great first step. I think another thing that would happen would be great, I think someone mentioned who would use this service, who would, like, if we provide it and we put it out there, then nobody puts their leaves, in a bag on the street, so I think, some sort of survey or some sort of outreach to the community, to find out who would utilize it, who would be interested in it. more statistics and research and background, I think would kind of get it a little further, you know, for the town to consider.
Okay.
I don't know, maybe the bags are a start, just to
Right.
get people at least not to put them in their
Yeah.
garbage can, so.
I think maybe if we have bags and then we could discuss at a future meeting, different ways to do outreach and kind of marketing just to help educate the community about the fact that we've got this awesome Pure Waste site that they should use and
We can
it's
drive
close
around
to
and pick
everyone.
up the leaves.
There you go.
Anybody have a truck?
Get my little sedan and run around.
Yeah, I mean, I think even though we provide that facility, I don't know if a lot of people have the right car to take a bag of leaves over, or a car that they're willing to get a little dirty, you know? And, I mean, I'm kind of guilty of that myself, you know? I only really personally got into using that facility in the last couple of years. I was just as guilty as everybody else, just putting them in the,
So
just
easy.
put them in the big
Totally
bin,
is,
you know,
yeah.
and be done
Yeah.
with it. But I don't know. I mean, I've lived out here long enough to know this at Boulder and Longmont and other towns around here. I know they definitely do a spring pickup
Yeah,
of
spring
branches
cleanup or
and stuff,
something,
because
yeah.
you see people's piles of stuff out in front of their house.
Yeah.
But like a fall pickup too, you know, we're not thinking too far outside the box of what our
No.
neighbors provide already.
Mm-hmm.
And people are gonna have leaves, no matter what. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I like the idea of researching stuff, but sometimes the results that come back on this stuff is so limited because the amount of people that actually do the survey is very limited as well.
Yeah.
Um,
You know, selection bias too, that plays into a lot of the surveys, so that makes it tough.
But might be curious just to get a quote with the fall coming up here and leaf cleanup coming up here in 2-3 months. It might be interesting just to go get a quote from our waste provider and just see what would it cost you guys to run an extra truck around on. You know, we just agree on a day. Tell us a day where you have the lowest, you know, need.
Mm-hmm.
Just pick up all these paper bags. Might be another way to kind of use some of our funds too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm just kind of talking out loud along with you guys. also.
What happened, is there something for Christmas trees? I can't
Yeah, the
remember.
Boy Scouts.
The Boy Scouts.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they do a sign up, is what they do, so they can at
Yeah.
least kind of plan where they need to go, and it's a donation.
And I think there's a link to that on the town website.
Yeah.
Yeah, we promote that for them.
And I don't know, I mean, I know we talked about this angle last time, do we want to see if this is up with the Boy Scouts or even the Girl Scouts want to consider as a fundraiser, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Forget about
Would
the
you pay-
cookies. No
Yeah.
cookies.
Yeah.
Yeah, would you pay $5 to just,
It's-
I know,
that's a
I'd pay
great idea.
$5 and just not have to deal with driving over there and driving back, I think a
Yeah.
lot of people would.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if it was going to an organization like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anyone who wants to do some outreach to the local groups to see if that's something that might be of interest?
So like Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts,
Yeah.
Monarch.
A fundraiser.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, I can do that.
So there,
Okay.
what groups do we want to consider this to?
Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts.
But are we also
That's
gonna
Girl
try to get a
Scouts.
quote from like Waste Management or something?
I think that'd be good. What's the best way to go about that?
Do that.
Is that something town staff can help with, or is that something we need to do, or?
Well, I'll
what's-
find that out. I'll
Okay.
find out if that's something that I should do or if the committee should do.
Okay.
I
Be great.
will ask that question.
Cool, thanks. Any other comments or thoughts on the fall leaf collection program?
Is this something we definitely want to try and make happen this fall?
I mean, I think that's up to all of us. It's sort of a relatively big lift in just the next couple of months. So I think it'd be great if we could pull it off, but I think at the very least, we should try to do an educational push. But if we can get something together, that'd be awesome.
If it comes through town funds, it might be very difficult to do that this fall because it wasn't included in the budget. Yeah.
No, that's a good point. Okay. So maybe something where we can at least do an educational effort, and then we can also get some numbers to include for next year for consideration. All right, so The next item was talking about seeing if we could develop some more specific sustainability goals for the board to consider adopting. So right now we have a very generic goal of basically saying that Superior should be sustainable, but there's no specificity. And I know, especially with the work you've been doing on the, like in the name, the sheet, scorecard. Yeah, I just want to bring it up again and see if there might be some potential for additional specific metrics that we could suggest to the board going forward.
I think we should definitely propose this type of thing to the board to get more specific goals out there. What I suspect, well, I don't know, maybe there's a couple options. You could do the first level would be not super specific, but would just be more specific than what's up there, which would just be to have sub goals, which still don't have numbers attached. So, you know, just specify, you know, the goal is to, you know, minimize the consumption of water, or potable water, or whatever, is to, you know, reduce the town's greenhouse gas emissions, things like this without putting numbers on. So that has a benefit of being more specific. Doesn't quite commit the town to anything in particular. Or we could seek numerical goals, but I think with numerical goals, we would both want, to justify that, we would both want a good understanding of what the current baseline is, and recommendations to accompany the goal of at least generally how we think it's feasible or to actually to implement things to meet that goal. I don't know that we quite have those yet for a lot of things. But we could try to develop them over time. And then one that stands out in particular, when we did the scorecard, we found that the whole region, the whole Front Range really is in violation of these air quality standards for ozone. I don't know if anybody else has the weather, I have the weather app on my phone, gives me notifications, and I've just been getting all these air quality alerts.
Yeah.
So, and, so one example would be, possible example, would be for the town to set a goal of, recognizing the town itself doesn't control the whole regional air quality, but for the town to actually establish a goal that it will take actions within the town to improve the air quality with the overall goal of meeting these, the actual healthy air quality standard. At least sort of lead by example and saying, we've adopted that as a goal, and we're going to work with neighboring communities, with the state to figure out the methods to help meet it. But then there's at least something up there saying that it's a goal of the town to have healthy air to breathe, which can then be supportive of other things like reducing driving, electric leaf blower, or gas leaf blowers, and all the other things that cause air pollution problems. So anyway, those are a couple thoughts, but I think this is a good idea that we should be working toward. I think to get a whole bunch of really specific metrics, we probably need to get the scorecard in place first, so we have a good measurement of the baseline.
Okay.
Where are we with the scorecard?
Yeah, I'm supposed to finish the updates to it. Well, actually, there's two actual things. There's only a couple really updates that I need to make to it, the file. But the main thing that we heard from the town board at the working session that we don't have was to supplement the data with ideas about what you could do about it for each category. And so this would be, it's an opportunity for collective brainstorming among us, or research among us. What we said we want to do is for each category, like water usage, come up with a couple of bullets that are really simple. It's like what an individual could do if they were looking at it. And then what the town could do from a town leadership point of view. So shifting town landscaping to more natural and sustainable. That's a good example actually of exactly the type of thing we would put in there. But we would need to develop a list of at least a couple bullets for every, I think there's 6 categories in there.
It should be pretty easy to do, right?
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
Maybe let's do this to advance that. I'll put it in an email right now to the committee what the categories are.
And we can
And then we can just start brainstorming
Right.
in an email list, maybe, what the,
Or even on a Google Doc
I
or
was
something.
gonna say maybe a
Google Doc would be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
like, is that something we have a shared infrastructure for, Google Doc? No.
I think as long as we create it and it's accessible to everyone in the committee, right, that should be okay.
And just make sure you're utilizing the ACES group email,
Mhm.
just for public records access.
Okay.
I mean, can we just make it a meeting agenda item? Can we fly through those bullets pretty quickly with
I'm happy to do that too.
5-6
Yeah.
minutes together?
I
Well,
can't, I have to leave.
No, not
Oh,
today.
okay.
But for a
next
future one.
meeting.
Sure, yeah.
Well, let's do both, you know, depending on who can attend at which time.
Well, that's true.
Let's put it on the meeting agenda, but also if there's anything we can get added outside the meetings, that's helpful too.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds great. And is Caitlin going to be around for the next meeting? Do you know, Karen? I can't remember what she said.
Yeah.
Next one, but not the following.
Okay, so I'll be out for the next one, so that'll be great as long as we have
I'll be out.
someone. Okay. Would it make sense to do the following one then? To have everyone together to talk about this for the October session? We can do it by email too before then, but
Why don't I set up the email? If you're able to discuss it next month, great. And then if there's
Okay.
more people going to be here in October, then we can plan in advance to do it in October.
all right.
Does that work?
She said likely out on the November,
But she's gonna-
October meeting,
Right.
She's going to
Okay.
be out too, so we're,
but hopefully here in September is what she
Right.
said.
Okay. Well, we'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting and then,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see. Take it from there.
Got it.
And I just sent all of you an email. I don't know if you guys have ever had the desire to pick up the town's financial statements, but within the town's financial statements, there's narrative sections that discuss major initiatives within the town, and one of those major initiatives is support of environmental sustainability. So I just sent to you guys that narrative content. That way you're at least seeing what the town is putting out there as kind of our successes, and you can see that that's the current benchmark and where we can go and build from there as we discuss.
Cool, thanks. All right, so the next item was, I was talking with a coworker recently and found out that she's actually on the Longmont Sustainability Advisory Committee, whatever that one's called. And one of the things we had talked about was maybe it might be cool if we could set up like a wiki or some sort of shared resource drive so that different advisory committees from all the different local jurisdictions can actually share information and best practices, because it seems like we're all trying to reinvent the wheel more or less continually. So I wanted to get people's thoughts on that and also see if there are any just logistical challenges that we should be aware of in terms of transparency or anything else with doing something like that. I don't think it would be all that difficult necessarily. But yeah, just want to get thoughts.
Sounds great.
Cool. Are there any challenges we should be aware of, Karen or Ken, that you're aware of?
So that would be something that I'd have to check on, because I know that CAPS wanted to create a website, and they asked, and they were allowed to.
Okay.
So I would think I would just have to just ask the question.
Okay, yeah, if you wouldn't mind, that'd be great.
So I can do that.
And I know OSAC has met with other open space committees of other municipalities as well, so I know you've got that collaboration going across municipalities, so.
Yeah, I just think if there's like
Get together
a,
and hang out too, right?
Right, and yeah, as long as any type of getting together in person is always encouraged. So if you
Sure.
guys want to do that, we would just have to make sure if there's 3 or more of you
Right.
that we're noting it, publicly noting it and taking notes and, all of that good stuff. But as far as like something behind the scenes electronically where you're just sharing information, is that more of what you were talking about?
yeah, that's more what I was envisioning
Okay.
as a way to share kind of best practices and stuff on an ongoing basis as opposed to
Sure.
just waiting to
Yeah,
have individual
I don't
meetings.
foresee there being any problem with that, but
Okay.
I would just ask the question.
Okay, great, thanks.
Do you know what type of format you would want to set that up in, just so I can ask that specific question?
I don't know what would be best, but probably either like a Google Drive system or maybe even like a wiki where people could go in and just edit.
Okay.
And then we could have like a collection of all the different initiatives and different ways that different groups are approaching it, more centralized. So
Perfect.
those are 2 ideas, but I haven't explored it much beyond that. And then finally, we have 2 openings on ACES, so just want to remind everyone to please go ahead and reach out if you're on social media and want to make a plug for that, like on the 0027 or other venues. I think that'd be great. It'd be excellent to get some more volunteers recruited soon so we can continue to have quorums. But,
I know 027 does hit technically Louisville, right?
yeah, so we just want to make sure that we're saying that this is just for Superior residents and make that clear. Or maybe next door, or, yeah.
Yeah, no.
Something
I
else.
know there's all those lists kind of hit other surrounding areas a little bit. So.
Mhm. I think that's it. Any other final comments? All right. Well, thanks everyone. I know we're a little over, so we can adjourn the meeting.